Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Alderman Raymond Lopez. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the City of Chicago's Southwest Side Gage Park community. Joining us today are my colleagues, Alderman Mike Rodriguez, Julia Ramirez, and of course, the distinguished mayor of the City of Chicago, Brendan Johnson. We're here because of the unprecedented flooding and damages that have struck the southwest side of Chicago. Many residents, thousands of families have been impacted. And today, earlier, Mayor Johnson and I walked and talked with residents impacted by what we've seen, by what we've heard, and finding out how we can work together for the residents of Chicago who've been negatively impacted in the past and how we can help them prevent this in the future. And with that, I gladly turn the podium over to the Mayor of Chicago to express what he learned today. Mayor Brendan Johnson.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're joined by, again, Alderman Lopez and Julia Ramirez from the 12th Ward and the 22nd Ward, Alderman Mike Rodriguez, and the full force of government. The 14th is now here. So, Helu Gutierrez, where is she? Oh, she is here. So how about we do this? Is it okay if we just give her a minute to say a few words? So before I give my remarks, we have the 14th Ward Alder, Helu Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Alderwoman Helu Gutierrez in the 14th Ward, proudly serving the communities of Gage Park, Chicago Lawn, Archer Heights, Brighton Park, that they were also impacted with this flooding in the recent days. Our neighbors are hurting. I've been in basements with families this week, and the damage is heartbreaking. Every level of government needs to be involved, not just to observe, but to take action. We can just tell constituents that this is all due to decades of disinvestment. Our community doesn't need more political theater or petty actions. We need resources, accountability, and long-term infrastructure solutions. I thank you, Mayor, for being here with us today. Thank you for taking all those calls, as well as the Department of Water Management and our OEMC director. We've been in constant communication with them since July 25th. And that commitment needs to continue, and we really need real action. We'll continue working alongside the mayor, my colleagues on the city council and in other levels of government, and our residents to make sure our families of the Southwest Side get the protection and support they deserve. Muy buenos días. Soy la concejal Helu Gutierrez de aquí del Distrito 14, representando algunas de las comunidades que también han sufrido daños después de estas inundaciones en los recientes días, tanto en julio 25 como este fin de semana, el 17 de agosto. Nuestros vecinos están sufriendo. Hemos estado en los sótanos con las familias esta semana y el daño de verdad nos parte el corazón. Todos los niveles de gobierno debemos estar presentes, no solo mirando, sino actuando. No podemos seguir diciéndole a la gente que todo esto solo es por décadas de abandono o de que el sistema simplemente no tiene capacidad para recibir el agua que cae. Nuestra comunidad no necesita más pleitos políticos ni teatro barato. Necesitamos recursos, cuentas claras y soluciones reales de infraestructura. Una vez más, necesitamos recursos, cuentas claras y soluciones. Por eso, le doy la bienvenida hoy al alcalde y le agradezco que esté aquí en nuestra comunidad hoy, al igual al Departamento de Agua y también al Departamento de Emergencias, con los cuales hemos estado colaborando desde que fue la primera inundación. Nuestro compromiso debe continuar y buscar soluciones. Seguiremos trabajando junto al alcalde, mis colegas del concilio y otros niveles de gobierno, y con los propios vecinos para que las familias del suroeste reciban la protección y el apoyo que merecen. Necesitamos la declaración de emergencia del Estado y del gobierno federal para que se hagan llegar los fondos para que las familias puedan recuperar lo que perdieron y también hacer remodelaciones en sus sótanos. Muchos de ellos perdieron todo. Seguiremos tocando puertas, seguiremos instruyendo los siguientes pasos. Hay una nueva encuesta que OEMC ha puesto. Necesitamos pedirle a los residentes que hagan uso de esa encuesta, llenen su información pongan sus fotos para nosotros poder hacer el caso grande y fuerte para poder pedir ese estado de emergencia en el estado y el gobierno federal. Just to close up, there's a new survey that I'm not sure if it was mentioned before, where we need our residents to fill it out. Put in your information, upload your pictures, so that way we can strengthen our case and ask for relief with the state and the federal government. So please, constituents, use the QR code. If you have any questions, reach out to our office. We'll continue to help you out. We're going to go canvassing again, door to door, giving that information to our constituents. If they need help filling out the survey, more than welcome to help you out in the office. And we'll continue fighting for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you again to all of our alders that are here. Over the past few weeks, we have seen historic levels of rainfall repeatedly hitting the southwest side of Chicago in particular. City workers across multiple departments have been working tirelessly to help residents recover and begin the process to rebuild. On behalf of the entire city of Chicago, let me first also extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our city workers who have been on the front lines of this crisis, especially our OEMC, DWM, DOB, and streets and sanitation workers. After significant rains during the first week of August, we acted swiftly to bring city workers together. We met with the county, and we issued a disaster proclamation after the first round of flooding. Unfortunately, since then, we have been hit again with multiple flooding incidents which have continued to affect our communities. Since August 16th, just 3 days ago, we have had over 5,612 311 calls. All of those calls reported damage to basements. Chicagoans recovering from one flooding incident have found themselves having to start all over again. We will continue to direct city resources to the affected areas to ensure that Chicagoans are not facing this crisis alone. Multiple city departments are engaged in this effort. The effort to clean up debris, clear away sewer backups, and then, of course, address safety hazards. Affected residents are encouraged to pick up free supply kits to assist with the flood recovery from their local alderperson's office. The flooding is the result of two factors. The water management system was never properly built on the west and southwest sides of our city. These are working class communities, and frankly, the city failed to plan properly in the past. We will continue to see damaging flood incidents until there are some real structural changes and improvements to our infrastructure as a whole. The second reason is climate change. It means that Chicago's working class communities are experiencing more and more frequent 100-year storms and extreme weather. We need to build more climate resilient infrastructure, plant more trees to absorb water, and modernize our infrastructure to account for this new reality. But today, we are calling for one thing in response to these flooding incidents. We need the state as well as the federal government to provide emergency relief for homeowners as well as our businesses. We will not allow this disaster to turn into a tragedy. We need state and federal dollars so that we can help residents repair their homes and ensure small businesses can fully recover. What we are asking is that residents also fill out their damage assessment surveys so that we can accurately report the extent of the damage. The more information we have, the better prepared we will be to fight for the relief of our communities that desperately need them at this time. In addition to filling out assessment surveys, residents can and should continue to call 311 to report water in your basement and make service requests. The deadline to fill out the damage assessment is this Friday, August 22nd. Finally, Chicago, I'm asking that we all come together in this moment. It's going to take all of us to build stronger and more resilient communities. With that, I will turn it over to our Executive Director of OEMC, Mr. Frank Velez.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mayor.
Good morning.
I'm Frank Velez, the Executive Director for the Office of Emergency Management and Communications. In the last month, the City of Chicago has been hit with torrential rain, which has caused major flood incidences. Our first incident was July 25th through July 28th. As you're aware, we just got second phase. We got hit August 16th through the 19th. From Saturday, August 16th to the morning of Tuesday, August 19th, there have been well over 5,612 calls that have been reported through 311 for water in the basement. Some of the areas affected this weekend and overnight also experienced flash floods in July. There are wards like 6th Ward, 12th Ward, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and the 23rd Ward. The City of Chicago and the Office of Emergency Management and Communications will continue to work with our partners at Cook County Management and the Illinois Emergency Management Agencies at the same to focus on the July floods and the August floods. Once again, we ask affected residents to complete the survey and self-report the damage assessments to help determine the eligibility and potential assistance for the flash floods that occurred in August and in July. The survey is a tool used to collect additional information and to determine whether the city, along with our partners at Cook County, IEMA, pursue options for assistance for our residents. Completing the survey does not guarantee eligibility for financial assistance aid or funding of any kind. The information collected will be used strictly for assessment and planning purposes as the city pursues all avenues for resources for our residents. The IEMA survey is the first step in the process. The survey is also available online through our QR code. A Spanish version is available as well. Residents can visit our chicago.gov/OMC to access the survey. The deadline, as the mayor stated, for the survey is this Friday, August 22nd at midnight. We ask that all residents continue to report the services and requests related to water basements through 311. By calling 311, use the Shy 311 app or online 311.chicago.gov. I also want to remind residents about the threat of fraud. The Flood and Damage Assessment Survey and calling 311 reporting in the water basements are the only information tools that residents are being asked to provide in order to pursue possible assistance. Do not provide personal information or payment to any third party. Again, completion of the survey does not guarantee or imply eligibility or financial assistance for the funding. The information is to collect to be used strictly for assessment and planning services. Thank you and very much.
Thank you, Executive Director Velez. We also have our Deputy Mayor for Infrastructure, Lori Lipson, is here. Commissioners Connor and Stollard are both here from Water Department, as well as Streets and Sanitation. We also have our Community Engagement Chief here as well, because we want to ensure that the residents of the communities that have been hit the hardest know that the full force of government will remain constant until families get full restoration. We also want to make sure that when you are filling out the survey, your documentation status is not necessary to disclose. So this is for individuals who are residents or citizens, and as well as undocumented individuals. That information will not be disclosed, so your status will be protected as the Welcoming City Ordinance permits. Thank you. Casio.
Okay, so we're going to take some questions. If you have a question, can you just come forward so I can see who you are? Leah? All right, we'll start with Sean over here and then come around.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Mayor, a couple of questions for you. One of them is the very residents you talked with today said this has never happened before. It's now happened twice in the matter of weeks. What does that say? And also, could you address what Frank was talking about, which is the potential for scam artists to come in and try to take advantage of these residents?
Yeah, look, as I said before, the first thing is, our hearts are with all of the families that are experiencing the damage. I've spoken personally to residents on the southwest side. This is very reminiscent to what families experience on the west side of Chicago as well, and other areas that have been impacted. What it means is that the infrastructure that was never properly structured, that we have now reached a point where it's going to require us to make those investments so that this doesn't become the norm. So we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that the initial cleanup is taken care of, and all of our city workers are prepared to work around the clock in order to expedite the cleanup. But it really means that the declaration is just a response to this particular moment. The real declaration has to be a commitment to ensure that the infrastructure that was not properly planned out, that we repair that. And the members that you're seeing here that are representing their respective wards, some ideas have already come forward, and I know they're very much committed to making those necessary investments so that this doesn't become the norm. As far as potential to scam, Director Velez, do you want to expound more on that? Sure. Please.
Thank you, Mayor. Importantly, as we all know, that we have several organizations out there that may come to you, and we're asking residents to understand that the survey is the only assessment that needs to be filled out. We want to make sure that our residents feel comfortable, that there are no third parties coming in there guaranteeing any type of assistance for them. This is the process that needs to be taken, and this is the only way that we're going to be able to get, as the mayor said, the governor's office to do this proclamation. So we want to make sure that residents do not provide any personal information at all or use any third party for recovery purposes. We're working with SBA, HUD, and the governor's office at this moment to try to find some relief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Michael Liptrop with Block Club Chicago. Earlier this year in January, HUD awarded Chicago and Cook County a total of $670 million for relief for the 2023 and 2024 flooding in Chicago, specifically $426 million. That funding came over a year after the flooding. And so looking at that as a precedent for now asking the federal government and state for relief, the reality that this may not come for a year or so. In the meantime, beyond the assessment, what can people expect as far as what the city can do while we wait for that funding when it comes to addressing some of the water management issues and those infrastructure issues?
Thank you for that question and that observation. So, again, it's incumbent upon all of our residents to fill out the survey, to report the damage to 311. I believe the damage that we experienced just this year is already double the amount of what was experienced in 2023. So these communities were hit especially hard. We're going to continue to work with all of our city departments to make sure that we're clearing out and cleaning out the spaces so that these families can begin to work towards recovery. In the meantime, our administration is committed to ensuring that the water mains as well as the catch basins, that we are paying closer attention to those, clearing them out, making sure that there's a clear pathway for water to be able to move so it doesn't get trapped and eventually cause blockage and cause flooding. So that work will continue. We have incredible city workers that are committed to not just assessing the damage, but looking at ways in which we can mitigate it in the short term. I'm going to have our Deputy Mayor Lipson add to that.
Thank you, Mayor. There are a few things that I think residents would like to know. Once they clean their basement up, they can take their bulk garbage and put it in the alley. Streets and Sand is picking them up. We also had tree emergencies that occurred over the last few days. Make sure you call 311. Streets and Sand is working on that as well. The Department of Water Management is also going to start cleaning the sewers in the area to make sure that we have a clear path as well. And CDOT is also working on some of the traffic and street lights. So again, make sure you call 311. any resource that you need, it's imperative to please call 311. Thank you.
Mayor Johnson, good morning.
Good morning.
Jeff Buckles, WBBM News Radio.
Yeah, you're doing a fine job.
You are kind to say that, sir. I appreciate it. You've said that the southwest side and other parts of the city, underinvested parts of the city, need investment right now, particularly with sewers and other infrastructure to correct decades of disinvestment. Based on what we see as the trend here with flooding, does this increase the urgency to ask state lawmakers to make changes allowing you to seek more, as you put it, progressive revenue options? And have you spoken with the governor today about relief?
I have not spoken to the governor today about relief. Those conversations, of course, are still ongoing with our, respective teams. He will hear from me directly. One thing that that we know that this was a joint effort from me and the county board president, Tony Preckwinkle, and we fully anticipate that the governor will be responsive as he has historically been. And to the first part of your question, I literally had this conversation with residents along the path where I had a chance to engage with. Look, I know that there is a desire and a need for immediate relief, and we're going to do everything in our power to secure that. The ultimate goal is to make sure that this doesn't become the norm, and it really requires us to invest in people, and that will require progressive revenue. And look, I'm going to make the case. We'll bring it to the residents, and people can decide if we want to remain stagnant and continue to get what we have received, or do we want to press forward to make those necessary investments so that families who are hurting from these floods don't have to worry every time it rains. I was talking to Alderman Lopez yesterday, and of all the things that can be triggering as elected officials, you never thought that rain would be one of those triggers, right? And Alderman Lopez has been doing this for some time. Same thing with Alderman Rodriguez. So we don't want people to panic every time it rains, but you're absolutely on the right path. Where I'm having conversations with city council members. They're going to bring ideas to the table as well, and we're going to put forth the budget that ultimately provides us with a pathway to have a safe and affordable city. Thank you.
It takes a lot of time to get money for more infrastructure spending. It takes time to do that infrastructure work. Are there any other smaller measures that you're considering? Alderman Lopez floated the idea of a rebate for devices that people can install in their home to prevent flow into their basements. Is there anything smaller that you're considering?
Yeah, there are ideas that are coming in. As our deputy mayor has indicated, there are some measures that between our transportation department as well as water management, streets and sanitation, we're looking at ways in which we can help assist when rain comes at that level to be able to move water through. But the reality is this. I'm going to always tell people the truth. The harsh reality is that there was poor planning in the infrastructure that left Southwest and West Side families, working people, vulnerable. And, as difficult as this is, and as much as we're going to work hard to provide support on the front end, there aren't just simple, quick fixes to this. Many of the things, and this is not like hyperbolic, this is just the reality. And so, I think there's no secret here. We have worked hard to, save taxpayer dollars to ensure that, we are cutting expenses where we can. But it's really going to require us to make investments in every aspect of our city in order to ensure that working families can live comfortably.
I think this is probably a question for some of the commissioners here. Why this area? Why this block? Why did the flooding concentrate here? Is there a construction project or something happening in the sewers that could have contributed, or what is it?
Commissioner Connor, you want to speak to that?
Good morning. My name is Randy Connor, Commissioner, Department of Water Management. To be able to address that question, one of the issues is that, again, the system is over 100 years old, and it's the amount of water that fell during that period of time that it fell. Somewhere around between 5 and 6 inches of rain fell during that time. The system itself just became overwhelmed. And the time that the system was built, it was built and designed for a 5-year rain when it was designed. Now we're getting more 100-year rains. So that's one of the reasons why the system itself became overwhelmed. It's like trying to put 10 gallons of water into a 5-gallon bucket. at a rate of a gallon per 30 seconds. So,
And just a fine, to put a finer note on that, I believe that amount of rain fell within like 90 minutes.
Correct.
So it wasn't just the amount, it was how fast and the time frame in which it came. Oh, Commissioner Stoller, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor.
Good morning still. We're okay. Still morning. Hang in there.
Good morning. We've been up all night. Another thing I'd like to take advantage of this time to mention of the importance of taking care of the tree canopy at this point, of trimming these trees and planting these trees. There's studies that have done and shown the amount of water that one tree can collect. The mayor has supported us in our goal of getting to 75,000 by the end of next year. It's really important. Those trees do serve a purpose in these weather-related instances. That's why you see us out there trimming them. We've trimmed over 200,000. We're on track to trim 200,000 probably within the next couple of weeks over the last 2 years. Again, the importance of trimming those trees and keeping those trees maintained will help in this effort as well. That's just another small effort we take. Thank you.
Good morning. Check, check, check. There we go.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. What is it that you're talking about? Improving infrastructure. It's all connected to the county, to the state. What is it that the city can do, if somebody maybe could drill down a little bit? You're talking about clearing sewers, but then it's connected to McCook, and that's what, at 90% right now? So what is it that the city can do, these investments that you're talking about, that would make, I guess, the impact of these heavy rains easier?
Sure, Commissioner Connor, and there's a project that we just broke ground on with the suburbs, providing water supply for the suburbs. So there is a relationship that we have. But Commissioner Connor, you want to speak to that?
Just to address your question, so a couple of things so we work very closely with the county as well as the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District on a bunch of projects. We have some projects that will be coming out really soon where we are going to be looking at building what we're calling wing storage, which will alleviate a lot of the flooding that you're going to see. And what that is it's a huge pipe about 60 inches in diameter. We have to fit it in spaces probably about 2 blocks long, where the main sewer itself will overflow into that and use as a holding tank to be able to hold more water. Then that will eventually fill up, and it will flow into the MWRD system. But we're also looking at piloting some sensors in the sewer system as well to try to give us a clearer idea of where the flooding will happen, so we can do more preventive maintenance. But we're also looking at the area that has flooded over the past few days to look at what we need to do to clean the system itself, just to try to make sure that the water is flowing through, it's flowing through. Thank you.
Sorry, and if I could just follow up too, because certainly flooding isn't new to some parts of Chicago. And Your Honor, I'm sure you've heard from some of your neighbors in Austin who are still dealing with flood damage from the storms 2 years ago. What can be done to try and help folks that are dealing with issues now so that they aren't dealing with these things for years?
Yeah, again, as I said earlier, there's no easy, quick fix to this, right? This is why we've worked hard to make sure that damage and debris was cleared out. All of our city departments are working to make sure that we do everything in our power to allow for water to move through quicker, particularly when we're receiving that type of downfall of rain in that short period of time. The ultimate goal, of course, is to make sure that this doesn't become, a repeated dynamic, and that is going to require us to make investments. So in the short term, of course, we have worked with community organizations to provide support. Some of that support has reached some of the homes on the west side. The city did put forth some resources to do that. We've worked with local contractors to be able to provide the repair in some basements. We did finally receive the full amount from the federal government just a little while ago. So we're going to find creative efforts to the best of our ability to, as we've done on the west side, to help some families recover in the immediate. But again, the ultimate goal is to ensure that the poor planning that was done and now here it is 100 years later, we're dealing with, this challenge. But it's one that we're going to meet head on. You see the full force of government in my administration here today. You also have commitment from the alders here to put forth ideas so that we're not seeing ourselves in the same predicament time in and time again. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
We've gotten lots of complaints about the skyrocketing costs of home insurance, flood insurance included. I know that's a national trend, but is there anything that can be done at the city level?
I wish, look, the federal government at this time has obviously shown a great deal of animus towards working families. And whether it's cuts to Medicaid, cuts to SNAP and food, cut to veteran services, cuts to our education system, this administration has been quite inimical to the interest of working people. But this is why the full force of government, county, the state, we're all on the same page here. You can see the unity on this platform today, and we're committed to making sure that working families get some relief in the immediate, but also build towards the future. Thank you.
All right, last question.
Mayor, on another matter, the CPS budget, are you not for it as it stands? And could a stalemate shut down schools?
We're not going to have a stalemate, and we're not going to shut down our schools. I'm very grateful that the first and second day of our school year has gotten off to a very strong start. Here's what I've said, and I'll continue to say it. We have to invest in our public education system. The city of Chicago, we put forth over $1 billion into our public schools. I'm the first mayor to release the largest TIF surplus in the history of Chicago because I'm just that committed to our public schools. I'm going to fight every day to make sure that families in this city have a world-class education, and that requires us to fund the district. And look, I dropped my kids off to our public schools, an 8th grader, 6th grader, and of course, I have a graduating senior this year. I'm going through changes right now, by the way, as my oldest is preparing to leave me for college in another year. But what I can say is that with all that we're doing at the local level, the people of Chicago are owed $1.6 billion from the state of Illinois. That's their calculation. And so I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we don't have cuts to the classroom, because that is really the alternative that people are presenting. That if we don't take forth the vision that I was elected to carry out, the only other option that they're providing is to cut. We already know that there are a number of workers that were cut as a result of the previous CEO's budget that I inherited. We told people 2 years ago that it was a problem. We told people last year it was a problem. And then he skirts out of here, leaves us with this $734 million deficit that we ultimately will fix. But we're not going to do it if we don't have a shared interest of making sure that we're investing in our young people, protecting our immigrant community, protecting the LGBTQ plus community, protecting Black history, protecting veteran educators. We have moved away from the privatization and the dismantling of our workforce. We have seen already, we have less vacancies to start this school year than we've seen in a generation, because we're actually hiring people to show up for our young people. But families are united. I believe as a group of leaders we're united. $1.6 billion from the state of Illinois. That's ultimately what we have to continue to fight towards. But there will be no stalemate. There's no shutdown. We're committed to making sure that our children, no matter where they live, have a world-class education, a school that they can walk to that's fully funded. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson held a press briefing on Tuesday addressing the recent flooding that has devastated communities on the city's southwest side. Joined by aldermen and city officials in Gage Park, Johnson toured flooded neighborhoods and spoke with residents who have faced repeated damage to their homes in just a matter of weeks. Thousands of families have reported flooded basements, with more than 5,600 calls to 311 made since August 16th alone. Alderman Julia Ramirez and Haley Gutierrez, representing heavily affected wards, described the heartbreaking damage they witnessed and called for more than political gestures. They urged accountability, long-term infrastructure investment, and immediate relief for residents. Gutierrez stressed that decades of disinvestment left working-class neighborhoods vulnerable and demanded resources to match the severity of the crisis. Johnson emphasized the tireless efforts of city workers across multiple departments who have been clearing debris, addressing sewer backups, and distributing recovery kits. He thanked them for their frontline role while warning residents about scam artists attempting to take advantage of the disaster. Only official city channels, he said, such as the 311 system and the newly launched survey, will be used to assess damages and request assistance from state and federal agencies. The mayor outlined two main causes behind the flooding: outdated water management systems that were never adequately built for the city's southwest side, and the growing impacts of climate change producing more frequent and intense storms. He called for stronger investments in climate-resilient infrastructure, including upgraded sewer systems, storage projects, and tree planting initiatives to absorb stormwater. Officials from the Office of Emergency Management and the Department of Water Management explained that the system, built more than a century ago, was designed for smaller rainfall volumes and has been overwhelmed by recent storms, including downpours of nearly 6 inches in less than 2 hours. They also described plans to expand stormwater storage capacity and pilot new sensor systems to better predict and manage flooding. While Johnson acknowledged that federal and state aid often takes time to arrive, he insisted that Chicago would not let the disaster turn into a tragedy. He pressed for emergency relief funding to help families rebuild homes and support small businesses. Residents were encouraged to complete the damage survey by the Friday, August 22nd deadline, as the data will strengthen the city's case for additional aid. The mayor also pointed to the need for progressive revenue to fund the necessary infrastructure changes and emphasized that decades of poor planning cannot be undone overnight. Still, he pledged his administration's full commitment to both immediate recovery and long-term protection for residents, stressing that no family should have to panic every time it rains.